hate. So, Mr. Shirabe, would you come up to the stage? Thank you very much, Mr. Jefferson, and honorable judges. Well, ladies and gentlemen, all around the street is filled with the hatred. Such people there are scared as hell. Here's one of the street corners in Japan. On the street, a bunch of people shouting hatred words like this. Get out to our country, dirty Koreans, cockroaches, kill all Koreans. This is a fact that happens in Japanese society, and this hateful act is what we call hate speech. Hate speech is a kind of speech that threatens, insults a minority group and promotes violence against them on the basis of gender, national origin, or ethnicity. I could never allow any kind of hate speech. But today, based on my personal experience, I'm going to talk about, especially on hate speech against Koreans living in Japan, with the desire that my speech will be the trigger to eliminate any other hate speech in Japan. Through my speech, I want to remove hate speech against Koreans living in Japan. Here is the important trigger why I deliver this speech. This is a story that one of my Korean friends who had confronted the hate speech demonstration. He said, when I visited the demonstration, I felt really sad because that is my nationality, which I cannot change. I was really confused to hear this story because it was the first time that I noticed hate speech actually hurts people around me. Even though they live in Japan, like we Japanese, the life is close to the skin. I came to feel anger against this situation. In fact, nowadays in Japan, there exists a lot of hate speech. According to the organization, International Network to Overcome Hate Speech and Racism, around 150 anti-Korean demonstrations occurred in 2014. 1 in 5 Koreans living in Japan have experienced it. But in fact, the number is actually a lot higher, as it doesn't include a number of hate speech on the internet. When taking these figures into account, it is clear that this racism is overflowing in Japanese society, and it creates more victims. The victims of hate speech can be divided into 2 groups. The first group is the Koreans living in Japan. They are emotionally wounded. My friend, who I mentioned at the beginning, is one of the victims. Actually, according to a book, What is Hate Speech? Hate speech seriously affects mental health and causes them to suffer PTSD. What is worse, there are some people who even commit suicide because of that. The other victim is the Japanese. The foreigners are criticizing us as hate speakers. Actually, we Japanese are criticized by a lot of foreign media, such as the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and The Economist. In fact, one of my foreign friends said, I have told you Japanese are racist because of many reports on hate speech. This talk is not only against me, but also against all of you here. Well, why had such shameful act been expounded? It's because the lack of education what the Koreans in Japan are. Actually, the history textbooks in elementary and junior high schools don't contain any articles about that. Because of this, non-educated people come to believe the incorrect historical view made by the hate speakers, and finally come to be a part of hate speakers for some reason that is not clear. We have to break this hatred process. Therefore, to eliminate hate speech, I'd like to suggest to the Ministry of Education that teachers should teach the history of Koreans in Japan, because it will help clear the misunderstanding of them. Actually, the history classes in Germany devotes much time to the cruel history of the Jews, not to cause hate speech like past time. As a result, in German society, the laws related to speeches that are denying Holocaust and discriminating races are accepted naturally by citizens, according to a book, How Germany Has Been Faced in the Past. Therefore, hating hate speech seems perfectly natural to Germans. And actually, the United Nations Commission on Human Rights has demanded that Japan should also teach the history of Koreans in Japan to students, not to cause hate speech. So, Japan should do that. There are 2 points for children that should be educated. First, the reason why there are many Koreans living in Japan. As a matter of fact, the Japanese brought many Koreans to Japan by military force with former colonial policy. Second, the history of discrimination. The Koreans who have been forced to live in Japan were discriminated in many ways, such as marriage, job hunting, moving, and also mass slaughter in the Kanto area in 1923. Koreans in Japan have these cruel histories. These are really controversial topics, so teachers should teach them having discussions in order to promote the students' comprehension. Indeed, in Germany, there are a lot of discussions when they deal with the topic of Jews. By doing this, it would surely make us realize that hate speech is just stupid misunderstanding and come to hate speech like in Germany. Speech. It's a unique item with a great potential that can change the world in both positive ways and negative ways. But as a speaker who sincerely believes the power of speeches, I would never overlook any speeches which hurts people seriously. I could never allow any types of hate speech. Audience, I guess you too feel like that. I hope one day that everyone will hate speech. Thank you for listening.